Hello, hey, now that's... Hey, Astrobate, that's a tasty burger. Mr. Slow has subscribed, Tier 1. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Hey. Mr. Slowhead, tipping $20. $20 to the fund. $5.41 even. Hello, Mr. Slow, Sun Prism, Astrobate. Alright, guys. I'm late because of Astrobate, as always. Okay, I've got Sun Prism, Mr. Slow, Sun Prism, Snedstick, Nefedov, and Astrobate. Listen, guys, I've got something tonight, so tonight's subscriber stream will be a little bit shorter than usual. We're looking at 2 hours rather than the usual 3.5 hours. I'm only gonna do about 2 hours tonight. So I think around 8:45 I'm gonna bag it. All right. So we got Mr. Slow donating $20 with the Velimirovich game. Sun Prism is here. Snedstick sent in a game. Nefedov sent in a game, and of course Astrobate sent in a game. Astrobate, I'll put you third since you're here. Can we do mine later? I've got to go for about 30 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. Wherever you want. You know, we can put Astrobates up in front of yours. So that's fine. I'll put you in the middle, and then Snedstick and Nefedov, who are not here. Basically, 5 games is enough. You know, I can maybe do max 6, but I've got to leave it at 8:45, and it's 6:45 now. So, thanks, Mr. Slow, for donating. Are you going to be with us this Sunday for the simul? I don't know. I'm like freezing. I left the air conditioner on in my office, and I forgot about it. So, Johan Sofrevsky was, Johan Sofrevsky was international master. Long time considered the best player of the Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. A solid, firm, and that sounds like tofu. Hard to beat chess player. He was the human version of tofu. Oh, it says Jovan. So that's interesting. You have Jovan. On the one hand, it's Jovan. On the other hand, it's maybe you just left a V out. I was going to say Jovan sounds Romanian. Whereas, like, you know, Jovan is more like Slavic. If he was Johan, I would say he was Romanian. But, I mean, I don't know. How far is Macedonia from Romania? Alright, let's see. So there's some carryover. Anyways, just a little background about Velimirich's opponent here. A lesser-known player because he was only an IM. But anyway, in those days, pretty solid. Not easy to be an IM. And this was 1965, dude. It's not easy to get an international title in 1965. But you probably have a pretty good chance in Yugoslavia. Unlike the other Soviet, you know, satellites and stuff, I mean, communism wasn't quite as hard with Tito's Yugoslavia in some ways. They also probably had a few foreigners bouncing around. Alright, we've got E4, C5. And this is Velimirovich with white, of course. Attacking player. So we see E4, C5, Knight F3. This is, by the way, this is from, what did you say? Titograd? Man, Titograd. Where is Titograd? I didn't read all of my book about the Balkans yet. I didn't finish my book yet. Titograd was changed to Alright. Does anybody know? Knight f3, knight c6, d4, takes, open Sicilian, and then e6. You know, I've been thinking about playing this with black. Though after trying it for the first time, I mean, obviously white has knight b5, and that move feels a little bit slow, you know, so it's not surprising to see, you know, when you move knight b5, you're moving the same piece twice, duh. Although it's a respected move, it may somehow not be as correct as knight c3, which develops a piece. And now Sofrevsky plays d6. Well, yesterday I had this very strong inclination to play d6 myself. Let's just say that. As black. But the problem is, you know, you're just playing a passive structure with the small center. I mean, this is more or less, you know, just going to transpose to a Scheveningen at best. Worst case scenario, Shirov is born like 20 years early and starts whipping out the like G4 on you, you know, which I don't know was really a thing back then in 1965. I think this wasn't really like played until later. But first of all, black's best moves here are knight f6 and a6, and other moves include like queen c7, right? Queen c7. Queen c7, Mr. Coffee. You're also playing the black side of the Paulson. But d6 is extremely passive. Damn, no wonder. I thought I turned the air conditioner off and I didn't, and that's why it's so cold. Alright. I was like, damn, it's not getting any warmer in here. Now, I remember a game where I lost really badly. The first time I played Alexander Ivanov, I was like 2100, and that was a rough pairing. Ivanov was like 2600 USCF. I was 2150. I lost my first round at this like open tournament to Zhou Fang or someone pretty good. And next thing I know, I'm like getting paired with Ivanov with like 0 points out of 1. Like, Jesus Christ. How does that happen? Needless to say, I started off 0 for 2. But Ivanov played f4. And then after knight f6, white plays bishop e3. And this is a very dangerous system. The late great Emery Tate also played that. But after d6, you know, bishop e3 sort of sets that up as well. So we can play an English type of attack, or we can go f4. Black plays knight f6, and now, you know, I don't really like Velimirovich's move here, just because I had the feeling that there are better moves. But he's the guy who loved to play the Sozin, and he literally created the Velimirovich attack. So this is just a kind of unusual order of moves, you know. We more often see bishop c4 in a different scenario. I like f4 here, and honestly, you look at the statistics, it has the highest score for white. But it's playable for black, it's not that bad. Also, of course, f3 is good. But that's also kind of a modern invention. So he plays bishop c4. I mean, the problem with this move is it is a Scheveningen. Yeah, I mean, it's like, do you call it a Scheveningen or a Sozin? Black's playing Scheveningen, and forgive me if you're Dutch for my pronunciation. I know it's not even close to correct. Scheveningen, or whatever, okay. It's still wrong. But, I mean, it always like bothers me playing bishop c4 into that pawn on e6. It just feels weird. So what happens if black plays d5? d5, e takes d5, e takes d5. How bad is this? Watu Kobesa, I lost against him once. Queen e2. Bishop e7. Castles queenside. Mr. Slow probably knows all about this. Castles, bishop b3. But there's this. White goes after that pawn. Okay, there's interesting stuff. Anyway, okay, d5 is not a great move. Black plays bishop e7, and Apocalyptic Infrastructure, thanks for joining us. So, as a player I've played many games on the black side of the Velimirovich, including a match against one Russian player who was quite good at it for white. I think that black's got two primary ways to play. Variation 1 is like you play bishop e7 and you just go for a quick castle kingside. Variation 2 is like you don't develop your kingside and you just try to aim for counterplay as quick as possible. So you see on the list there's bishop e7 and a6. They're very different. If you play bishop e7, you castle kingside as fast as possible. If you play a6, you don't play bishop e7 at all, because you're going to get hit by these like Velimirovich sacrifices anyway. So if you're not going to castle, you just leave the bishop on f8. Don't like mix and match like bishop. I learned this the hard way. Don't play bishop e7 unless you're committed to castling kingside. So bishop e7 and now queen e2, and this is the idea. Now white will castle queenside and throw everything at black on the kingside, sacrifice some knights. We'll see what happens. Black, I think, should castle here and commit. But see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. What Sofrevsky does is I believe, a mistake. Maybe a6 itself is not so bad, but you don't screw around any longer than that. You know, so now castles queenside. Is white threatening takes an e5? See, he's already threatening takes an e5, so what about this? Is this a problem? Takes, and now e5, knight d5, e takes d6, knight takes c3, b takes c3. Whoa, bro. What's up with that? That's bad for white. So maybe it's not, but anyway, dude, just castle. Alright, if you're going to play bishop e7, castle and be done with it, you know. He's going to get caught in the middle. I can tell you already, castle queenside, queen c7, bishop b3, and now this bishop is going to get hit by some kind of knight fork or something. So we're going to see knight f5, knight d5, and all that stuff. Knight a5, g4, and now I don't know about this bishop on e7. I mean, I'm normally playing this position with black with the bishop on f8. b5, g5, knight takes b3 check, a takes b, knight d7. See, now if the bishop's on f8, if the bishop's on f8, you know, knight f5 is not a threat. That's the premise here. But at this point now, what do we do? You know, like this is an actual problem. So you have to take it. And then knight comes in. You have to go back. Yeah, I remember seeing this, not Udas and Patrick Wolf, but I was probably there for Udas and Patrick Wolf, but I thought it was DeFermian versus Patrick Wolf. I think they had a game in the U.S. Championship like around the early 90s. I was always like terrified of these positions. Black has to be very, very careful. So that's why I recommend like making up your mind about castling or playing bishop e7. So now e takes f5. I thought that this was bad for black. Now I could be wrong. Alright, let's see. Computer thinks only slightly better for white. Bishop b7. Now black decides to castle. So, isn't there a problem with f6? I mean, this is going to be an idea anyway. As a sort of pawn sacrifice to open black's position up. But Sofrevsky castled now. The computer wants to play this, but I think this is also very natural. Eliminate the knight as fast as possible. Now f6, let's see. Bishop takes d5 has been played. This goes beyond my theoretical knowledge. But I have played the black side of the Sicilian a couple times against Alonso Zapata. And the last time didn't work out either. That was also a Sozin, but I got a good position and lost. Alright, bishop b7, f6, g takes f6, rook h, e1, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, rook g8, pawn takes f6, knight takes f6, rook f5, and the beat goes on. Zapata 1995, Zapata 1994. De Fermian would play both sides of this position. Yeah, I don't know. The book goes on very deeply, but I mean, I'm really not inclined to know like what the final evaluation is. Like black's hanging on, essentially. There's no case in where black's like better in these lines. So knight to d5, queen d8, e takes f5, castles f6. This is a very standard sort of pawn sacrifice to open black up on the king side. Again, there's under no circumstances is black better here, even though he's up a piece. White has a very strong attack. Takes bishop d4. Now attacking e7. And it's funny, there's a game from 1996 where black played rook e8. You get the impression that black should be getting checkmated here. Especially after rook e8, but probably after anything. How can black's king like stay alive in this position? It's very hard for me to believe. Peter Falk! There's a statue of Peter Falk down the street from me. But rook e8, g takes f6, bishop takes f6, and white played knight takes f6 check, but why? Why would you play knight takes f6 check here? Just, this has got to be winning for white, man. I just can't imagine how it's not. Because rook g1, bishop g5, oh my god. So what do you guys think? This is rook g1, bishop g5, holds water. Rook g1 check, bishop g5 check. And my queen's hanging. Wow, dude, and that doesn't work. Queen d2, oh my god. No way. So white was probably afraid of that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So after this he played knight takes f6 check. And that's like the worst possible move. White ended up not winning the game. That's, yeah, unbelievable. This is literally the only move that doesn't win of the like top 3 or 4 moves. And that happened in that 1996 game. Black plays bishop takes f6. No. So bishop d4, knight e5 was played, and this looks a little safer than the other guy's move, rook e8. But still, how can black's king survive here? Wide open. Bishop takes f6. At least this knight helps, right? The knight helps a little bit defensively, although it can be driven away by f4. And I think like ultimately that's why like white has total compensation for the sacrificed piece. At the minimum. What was that? We had a notification. Will BB 1 2 3 4. Will BRB. Alright, so 2-hour stream today, guys. Check. Obviously you can interpose something on G4, but I don't recommend it. And then black plays bishop G7, but yeah, okay. I mean, king H8 needs to be considered. I mean, obviously the game's going to hinge on F4, and black's probably not going to last. You know, there was this game I analyzed today by, thanks Mad Quick Chess. There was this game I analyzed today by Geller, and he said there's a school of thought where you grab as much material as you can. You know, and he had this game with someone, Stahlberg. It was Geller Stahlberg, and he was like, some players play like they grab as much material as they can, and then they try to save themselves by like giving it back little by little. That's like a scheme that people operate with. But I think it's better just not to be materialistic in the first place. You know, here black is up a piece, and you could be like, okay, I'll just keep giving stuff back till everything's okay. But at some point, it's too late. You know, it's like it's too late. It's too late. Right. But you got to know like your limits. Like, oh, it's too late. I can't give it back now. You're locked in to death. So, but Pi Rocks was like knight takes f16 is really strong. Well, yes, that's going to break black down. But, you know, it's going to come down to probably a combination of things. You know, we're going to need to play f4 in most lines. But instead, black played bishop g7. And I figure, you know, that's really asking for a pin or a sacrifice on g7. So, you know, if I'm white in this game, my first thought is to sack the exchange. But I'm already down a rook. I mean, I'm already down a knight, bishop, whatever. I'm down a piece. If I sack another exchange, I'm down a whole rook. I can get back a piece, but I'm still going to be down, you know, what am I going to be down then? I'm going to be down the exchange. And it starts to simplify. So honestly, you know, what is white supposed to do? I guess f4. So let's say bishop g7. What do we expect? f4? Sofrevsky's idea is probably to play knight g6 and like block the file. And things don't look so simple, you know. It doesn't look that easy. So I understand what Pyrox was saying, and I guess he's right, you know. It does look like allowing knight takes f6 is dangerous, so although I would have played king h8, probably I would have been in trouble after f4, knight f6. I guess f4 first. But this is spectacular what happens next. So I figure like black missed it, and I might have missed it too. Geller made another comment in another game I analyzed. I've learned a lot from him, that queen sacrifices are often overlooked even by very strong players. This is not a queen sacrifice, but somehow it kind of feels like one. Because we're putting our queen in take after queen takes e5. Somehow it's harder to see. I don't know. You know, you don't expect this. It's pretty obvious, but at the same time, you know, it looks dangerous putting my queen in take. Now I'm threatening mate simply. And black has no way to protect g7, so he has to play f6. This is the only move. And looks like he's getting out. But knight e7 check attacks black's queen. And now there's some traps. So if king f7, I guess rook takes g7, king takes g7, queen g3 check, king f7, rook takes d8. That's one example. Okay, I don't know if this is good enough, but it's one line. But what happens on king h8? Now the queen is hanging, but our queen is hanging as well. So that's nasty. Rook takes d8, pawn takes d5, rook takes f8 check, and then rook g8 mate. And that's why you need to do your puzzles, so you can work out, simple continuations like this. So don't forget to do your puzzle homework. So that's why king h8 doesn't work, but king f7 was played, and so black just walked into queen h5. Okay, probably he's thinking what I was thinking, something like this. But you're like, uh-oh, queen h5, that's pretty unpleasant. Now I have to either take or go to e6. Taking is definitely not good. So, and then king e6 is also, needless to say, not very good. We lose a lot of pieces, and black resigns. Anyway, crushing game. Crushing game. I don't know, man. I still think that I don't trust this variation for black, My gut instinct is that black should refrain from, either completely refrain from bishop e7 or play bishop e7 castles immediately. Bishop e7, queen e2, castles immediately. Castles immediately. And now, you don't even need a6, do you? I mean, just hypothetically, can black play like queen c7? You can play queen c7. There's Sevian Fallujah 01. So it looks like black is doing okay here in these lines. This is a game from 1965, though. Thanks, Mr. Slow, for donating. No. White didn't lose this game. No, white won. So Astrobate, we got a game from one of our viewers. That game was a submission of a Grandmaster game, Velimirovich, played back in 1965 from Mr. Slow. This is a viewer game, Astrobate subscriber, I should say. John Cito Tutoto. John Cito Tututo. 23, sorry. Yesterday was 42424. Anyway, if you're counting by American system, where the month is first. Welcome everybody. Please donate to support my tournament schedule, which will definitely include Poland in July 1st for the World Team Senior Championship. Hey, have a nice analysis. I usually go pretty long on Thursdays, but tonight I'm going to have to cut it at 8:45. So this is a 2-hour stream. All right, this is Astrobate with white. Astrobate's one of our longest viewers and supporters, and he's still improving. Knight f3, e6. He's white here. b3. And today he showed me a game where he actually played d4 for the first time ever. Black plays d5, bishop b2, and now everybody does this. I don't know why. Knight c6. This is a really bad move. This is why you don't put the knight in front of the c-pawn in the queen-pawn games. The only scenario where it's okay is if this bishop were outside the pawn chain. I'm itching for a username. No, Astrobate. Astromate. So, knight c6 blocking his c-pawn from attacking the center. The black has two problems, right? He has a bad knight that blocks the c-pawn from influencing the center. Also, the bishop is blocked from entering the game by the pawn on e6. So e3. That's crazy. I saw the same game yesterday. Z-Matic. He makes voting machines. That's funny, man. I mean, it's so awesome if you're Serbian, your name is Matic. And your first name is like Z. You could be Easy Matic or Easy Matic. DJ Easy Matic. All right, knight f6. Actually, did I see this game already? Wait a minute. We didn't do this, right? C4 then a bad move. So why would we want to do this with black? Why would black want to do this move? D takes c4. This isn't a double, is it? We didn't do this game already. Frank, what? D takes c4. I'm just here to make fun of people's names. D takes c4, very bad move. Giving up the center. Bishop takes c4. And now bishop c5, another bad move. That's 3 bad moves by black. Knight c6, d5 takes c4, and now bishop c5. So he's begging you to like gain a tempo and play d4, but your bishop's so good that maybe you don't want to play d4. Castle. Castle, and now, what do we do? You know, I should mention also that Asterbate also should consider taking with the pawn here. Too late. Is it too late? Arsenal, submit the game and we'll see. It might be too late. It might not. But I have to leave at 8:45. So bishop takes c4. We're going to do as much as we can. So b takes c4 is... b takes c4 is interesting. It would increase your number of pawns in the center. But it's like a slower approach. Anyway, d takes c4, bishop takes c4, bishop c5. Sorry, bishop takes c4, bishop c5, castle, castle. And then, this is very controversial because you place your knight on its best square, but at the same time it blocks your bishop. So you need like bishop clearance. I always have this hallucination that I'm hearing like a phone vibrating. But it really is a hallucination. Alright. Was it Freud or Einstein? Freud had the fly buzzing in his ear, right? So knight e2 is the plan. Alright, that's the last game I'm going to accept into submissions for today from Arsenal fan. Oh, this happens every time, dude. Why does it give me a position? I don't want a position, bro. I want the whole game. Jesus, dude. What is that? A Mark Esterman, like, Mora analysis or something? Tools. Analysis board. Study. My studies. April 25th analysis stream. Add chapter. Paste. Alright. But anyway, back to... Oh, shit. Sorry. Excuse me. It's in the book. Every time Arsenal does this to me. That's what you get. See? Submit the game late. And you mess us up. Alright. So knight c3. And now, black to move. Black fire plays h6. I've criticized 3 moves by black already. But I'm not going to hammer this move too much. Because, you know what? I don't like it, but at least he has some sort of idea, you know. This may or may not be a great move, but he's thinking about knight g5, and I think that that's actually a possibility. So, although it's not the best move for black, probably, it's a thinking move at least. d4. And now, if you go here, which is the right square, there are a couple of problems. Okay, first of all, when I push e4, I'll be forking you with e5, so you pretty much have to go e5. Secondly, you can get hit by knight to b5, but I don't know how bad that really is, you know. So I think he should go there, and he has to try it, you know, after e4, e5, see what's up. This is too passive, and you have no counterplay, you're done. You know, black is basically spatially lost here. And I think that this move is bad, you know, for other reasons. But at least he keeps control of the e4 square. So black, by questioning the existence of this knight, he's taking to preventing white from playing e4 for now. So Asterbait, I was expecting him to do the knight maneuver, the Mexican hat dance, shall we call it, which is fine, also avoiding exchanges, but you know, you got to give him credit. Like, this isn't a bad move, controlling the e4 square, but I also like queen e2, you know, simply developing. So you go here, and now black to play. Black needs to try to play, you know, either for exchanges or to try to get his bishop out. Plays a6. This is reasonable. The Basman defense isn't great, but his idea is to play for b5, and that's a normal Rogozin strategy to get this bishop out here. Well, knight e2 in general, it's not just to avoid trades. Asterbait was thinking about knight e2 before, but he also, you know, he also might have knight e4, which wouldn't avoid trades, but it would trade off like a defender on the king side. You know, I don't mind trading off that knight on f6. If I traded any of black's pieces, I probably wouldn't mind that. You know, so here and then b5, and now this is the plan. I mean, he wanted to play bishop e7. So one problem here is I think white could get materialistic, you know, and try to be, oh, I can win a pawn, but this would be a very bad move. After takes, rook takes a2. I'm hearing like this vibration. I don't know what it is, something on my desk maybe. Yeah, I don't think you want to do this. Wow. Asterbait turns into Karpov. Holy shit. a4 is committal. I have never seen Asterbait play something like this before. Committal. It is committal. You can't take it. Any pawn move is committal. You can't take it back. That's true, Arsenal fan. All pawn moves are committal. But nevertheless, I like it. And yes, it's committal. And white could play other moves as well. Black just ignores it, which you can't do. So black's options are relatively limited to things that don't lose a pawn or otherwise threaten something. He should probably take. I mean, you know, very similar game I looked at yesterday by Karpov. Karpov was white. Karpov was white in a Grunfeld against Swidler, and he also did a4 in a certain position, where black has the option to go b4, and Swidler didn't find it. He did like b takes a. But here there is no b4, so. But anyway, I love to see Asterbait playing new ideas, and whether it's good or not, I like to see this a4. Rook e8, a terrible move, of course, and now black's just like losing a pawn. And Asterbait got, I would say he got distracted. You played a4, you attacked his b5 pawn, he ignored it, and you should just take. And the problem is, like, when he recaptures, you take with the bishop and you're skewering his knight to the rook at e8. This is not a very good situation for black. Right, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3. Yeah, that's an option, right? Bishop takes c3, but white is not committed to playing bishop takes c3. He can also play rook takes c3, which is more complicated, but also keeping pressure on the knight. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. But I don't, I don't see any like obvious problem with doing like pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn, knight takes, and white is slightly better, I guess. I mean, then you can do 97 or whatever you wanted to do. But white is just better. White has a monster center, no matter what. It's just a huge position for white. I think just no matter what. I mean, black's position wasn't okay in the first place. It wasn't okay, in the first place, and it still isn't okay, He has a bad position. But 92 takes the gas pedal, takes the foot off the gas pedal a little bit here, I think. B takes A4, and then he drops a piece. So that's not good. Kind of anticlimactic. And then this is really bad, walking into 95. Astrobate likes to present us with his best win of the week. And this one was a little bit too over the top, a little too crushing. Queen E7. And we're just simply up a piece. We're up a whole piece, something but the piece, so if you got... I don't really like pinning ourselves. But I think he didn't like maybe this. And someone was talking about the Astromate. It might be coming to the... Oh my god. He's literally threatening mate in 2. Guys saw it. This is like a decoy, trying to get him to take with a knight. Alright. Oh! Maybe we've gone too far. Because if pawn takes knight, bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, queen h7 check, he's got this Korchnoi defense, bro. Like king f8, check, and king e7. He can evacuate. So at some point, I think Astrobate should just chill here. He's too fixate. He's got the fixation on playing for this mate. And sacrificing a piece is too much. This is a serious mistake. The dude could have taken that, and I don't know what's going on, man. I mean, now it's not clear if you really have an advantage. Well, it works. You have bishop f6, queen f6, queen h7 check, king here, rook takes b7, rook takes b7, queen h8 check, king e7, and this is winning. He takes f4. I mean, I wouldn't have been sure as a human being. I wouldn't have been sure. Rook e1. Astrobate saw all this, of course. That's computer analysis. So I would have been unsure. I wouldn't have sacrificed. I mean, I don't see a need to sacrifice a piece here. I'm telling you, Astrobate does chess by phonetics. I was talking about it with him today. You guys, how like phonics for saying like spelling and stuff? He has like phonics for chess. You don't actually calculate concrete variations. It's just like you just feel it out. Like it's no need. There's no need for concrete calculation. Just purely by intuition. And then black played e4, and now he's just down a piece again. And there's no need for this, but all right, I'll accept it. An extra pawn. And then rook b1. You had rook b1. Oh, we really gone provocative here. Good enough. It's over. Alright, Aspie, good game. It was kind of a slaughterhouse, though, honestly. Slaughterhouse 5. Okay. So, Snedsteg, Sun Prism, Snedsteg. You want to do Snedsteg next? Snedsteg is next. Where's my water? What's up, everybody? Get any donations? Got follows from Pushmar, K. Henry, and Free Dodo 545. Any donations will be used to support our trip to the World Senior Team Championship, which is a pay-your-own-way deal. I'm playing for a U.S. team, but we're not the official sanctioned team of the United States, so we have to pay our own way. So I've got Snedsteg, Sun Prism. Sun Prism, wait, are you back? Is Sun Prism back or not? Sun Prism, are you here? Nefidov is always late. If Sun Prism's not back, I'll do Snedsteg's game first. Alright. If I start Snedsteg's game, Sun Prism will be like, I'm back, I'm ready. Alright, so we're doing Snedsteg. B3. So this is an OTB game. These are OTB ratings. 1858 versus 1608. The 1608 should be dead meat against a solid 1858. Not OTB game, there's a clock. Alright, I'm just going to scroll up and read you what it says. Snedsteg says, submitted a real OTB game this time. That's all I know. Okay? I didn't pass the bar exam. I'm just saying what he said. So, B3, knight F6, bishop B2, E6. C4, it's in English, bishop E7. This is pretty boring setup by black. And now, the question is, what do you want to do? So you played H3, which is early acerbate, theoretical novelty. Maybe the Grob, just straight up go for G4. You know, why screw around with H3? Also, you can play Queen C2 if you want to be different. Probably nothing wrong with that move. But the normal moves involve developing the bishop, which means like G3, E3. So you go H3. Was thinking about G4. Well, I had this game with Hertan years ago where he like took the pawn, went here, and then it was a BOGO, but it was the same thing. I tried to do a G4, like spike attack. Black can go back with like knight E8, I guess. Well, I would certainly play it in a blitz game or rapid. I don't know if I would want to do it in classical chess. It doesn't feel objectively correct. Although you could also just let white play G4, G5 and hope that white overextends himself. Actually, come to think of it, if I play G4 and takes, what would happen if you did like bishop takes G7, king G7, rook G1? Maybe, what do you do, F5? And then H3. Like, seriously, guys, what would happen here? H5, takes. How does Simon Williams feel about this Dutch? Yeah, it looks... Yeah, White's development isn't great. For once, I agree with Arsenal fan. I mean, no, but you know, G4. It's not really correct. But neither is H3. You know, so I would go with normal moves here. But whatever. Okay, you played H3. Black plays B6 like he wants to play that diagonal. And so, you know, if you don't play G4, we're going to end up in a situation where we're like, well, why did you play why did you waste time with H3? I mean, it stops knight G4. Okay, like, who cares? So H3 ends up being a waste of time. You're not playing like the London system and bringing your bishop back to H2. G1 and G4. I get it. You can do that on move 2, too. I just want to point it out. Oh, you can't because you didn't play knight F3. Yeah, that's true. You could also play rook G1. I like to play like rook G1. You could just do this and save time. And not... That's... Save time on H3, you know. Why even bother playing H3? Alright. Yeah, I mean, I had the game 2 years ago in the World Senior against this Danish FM where I did G4, but I was pretty nervous about central stuff. So I think Black is very principled here to answer you in the middle. Seeing the move H3 and Black answering in the center looks really good for him. And you have to be careful he doesn't bust you down in the middle. And this move gives me the creeps, honestly. As Arsenal pointed out, your development isn't that great, and you know, H3 doesn't do a lot. 95 now, you're just kind of like sitting out there. You're weakening your control of D4 a little bit. You know, I'm not loving this. I don't know exactly what we're doing here. But Black now goes off. Black goes off the, like he got like infected, like you have some kind of parasitic brain disease. White plays 95, and what does Black do? You know, he's affected by like the copycat syndrome. But I mean, I think you should try to do the opposite of what your opponent is doing. If you don't, you know, if your opponent isn't developing and moving the same pieces twice, then do the same thing. No. If your opponent is not developing and moving the same piece twice, then freaking out-develop him, you know? So the first thing to me is bishop b7. This is absolutely diagonal. Possibilities of d4 coming. We're 2 moves away from completing our development with Black here. We're keeping an eye on g2. Even if we can't take it, I mean, still, it doesn't hurt. And I think the knight on f6 is a good defender. Why do I want to move my knight to e4? So I can clear the diagonal for you? Move away a kingside defender? I think this knight could come back to e8 and protect the kingside. So I wouldn't do this. This feels like 2 wrongs make a right kind of logic to me. You know, I think that Black should just do his thing. You know, cover c6, and then either knight c6 or knight on bd7 coming up. And keep that knight for coming back to e8 or d7 as needed. This looks like a mistake for sure. At least on principle. In principle, it's a mistake. Now, I haven't demonstrated any concrete way to take advantage of it, but that's not my point. You know, Black just simply isn't developing. What I don't like about the move is on the fundamental side. There may be like a concrete refutation as well, like you're talking about, with like take, queen g4. I wasn't sure. Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, he's trans the knight on e5. The other thing is Mr. Slow's pointing out this move and this move have in common the idea of, yeah, stranding knight e5, also playing f6, which could blunt the bishop on b2 and kick the knight the hell off of e5. So stranding it is one thing, and just simply like kicking it the hell off of your side of the board is another. You could do worse than knight e8, you know. I mean, this isn't so bad. I haven't played h6 and weakened my king side, so I can play f6. You could get, what, an Asterbait? Asterbait attack here, maybe. f6, queen h5, you know. That's one of those scenarios where you have to play like f5. I'm just saying, like, you know, knight e8 is an option. But this move feels like, you know, he sort of justifies your play by playing a bad move himself. Knight e4, d e4. And so, yeah, we're looking at queen g4. But it looks like he has f5. So, nothing special, really. Queen g4 is not that great. No, suddenly, if the knight's not trapped, I like white's position. Ah. No, our queen is rather awkward on g3, though. You know, if f5, you have to watch bishop h4. I'm not so sure that I like this, you know. You have to put your queen on h2. It's a bit awkward for white. You know, I'm not that happy with it. I'd rather not, you know. But I mean, is our knight trapped? So I think you could see your knight can come back here, right? We have that like guaranteed. Plus, now queen c2 attacks e4. If f6, queen e4. Now your knight is threatened by the threat of f6, but it still has g4 and h2. So what you can do here is an f3 type of thing, but the problem is that diagonal. You know, and here's where I wish I hadn't seen. Whoa! After queen g4 is an f6 winning. No, I have this. So that's the problem. You know, it's the same as queen c2. So I'm going to take your rook. No, the problem is that black can't play f6. But I think queen c2 is fine. And h3 finally, you know, it has a purpose. Like the knight has a place to retreat to if it gets attacked. But you'd rather play f3, it's just that this diagonal is really weak. So he plays d3. And now, obviously, if f6, knight g4, and you have a retreat square, not a great one, but it works. And I think that white has a pretty good position, objectively. This isn't good. This only weakens black's king side. So I would think this is quite a good position where we can castle either way, probably queen side. d3 is reasonable, and now white has a very strong attack. Speaking of Astermate, black's in serious trouble now. Maybe lost. I mean, objectively, it's probably lost already. You know, it looks like one of the situations we're going to get like bishop h7 check and bishop g6 or something. You know, this sort of stuff could happen. Maybe that's not quite enough. You know why rook g1 sucks, Arsenal fan? It prevents him from taking our g2 pawn. You know? Objectively. Who wants to do that? But I think like just castling queenside white is a winning position, probably. Yeah, this is a winning position. Yeah, you're going to have to play rook g1 to play g4, I guess. But objectively, white's position is so good you could probably sack the exchange. No, I don't want to do that. But I was curious, though. Okay, let's say castles queen c7. Do we have anything with bishop h7? I keep wanting there to be something there that's not there, but it's almost there. Like here, check. I want this to work. If only this would work. It's so close, you know? Obviously, like this would work. Double check, king here, check, king here, and mate. The Aster mate theme. But he has pawn takes knight. And then there's no bishop takes g7. Because he just takes the bishop on h7. So we don't have a mate. Queen takes, bishop f6. Nice fantasy, though. Yeah, but I mean, I think this is a serious thought. But it's just not quite enough, probably. I mean, that's legitimately dangerous. Now you do it. So it just gets out of knight b4. Acerbate would have played a3 probably. Ah, you have rook d7. And now black has to seriously consider sacrificing his queen. I guess bishop takes, rook takes c7, bishop takes c7. Queen c3. f6. Ugh. That's not enough for black, right? Yeah, he missed rook d7 penetrating the check in rook d7, and so queen c8. And now you must be winning. Knight takes f7 check. Black takes on b2, you take with the queen, and he has no way to protect g7 except for e5, blocking the diagonal. But how long will that hold on? No, not very long, probably. WJ Loof, welcome back. Rook takes b7 looks like a Charlie trade stuff. This is quite good. Oh, now, yeah, now. Now you could do it. I mean, you're up a rook here. But he did this elegant move. Rook takes f6. Knight b4, queen b1, rook d8, and then rook takes h6 is possible. Oof. Very cute. Queen e7, bishop f5 check, king. And now how do we finish him off? Bishop takes e6 check. And then mate on h8. So he has to sack his queen. And then you got queen h7 check. Now, black resign. But anyway, that was a crushing game. Honestly, 250 rating points goes a long way. But it felt like even more. Okay, Sung Prism is back. WJ Loof, welcome. Glad to have you back with us. Thanks for being a subscriber. No, honestly, like Snedsteg is pretty strong, you know, and I think that he has a lot of upside, a lot of upside potential. What are those ratings, by the way, Snedsteg? So. Oh, we're black here. This is a game from Sung Prism. Because I got to go in about an hour. So they are FIDE ratings. Okay. Well, the thing is, like, I think your rating is you're 1850, but you could be 2000 very easily. Whereas your opponent, you know, I mean, you just never know. The lower the ratings, the less accurate they are. Somebody who's 1600, I don't know what to expect from that. You know, they could play like a master, or they could play like they were like a total idiot. That's how inaccurate the rating system is, especially the lower down you go. I don't want to play anybody like who's below 2000. Absolutely not. You know, that's why I won't be playing like the Reykjavik Open or anything anytime soon. Alright, so we're black, we're facing e3. No, we're not. Where did that come from? How did that get in there? Sometimes I face e3, I never know what to do. Alright, e4. This we know what to do. Alright, so this is Sung Prism's game. You're between -5 and 1999. Most people are. Well, they added points to the FIDE ratings lately, and I don't know how much, you know, that would have really fixed the situation. We've seen a lot of rating deflation with FIDE ratings. But oh, I saw this article in the Washington Post or New York Times about last week. It was an article about how ELO ratings are taking over the world. Like, apparently there's a lot of other places that they're trying to use ELO ratings. Has anybody else read this? The ELO rating system they're trying to use in other sports and stuff like that. Mr. Coffee, you would be into this. Yeah, so the chess RPAD ELO rating system is like infiltrating the rest of the world. Another note, BBC is having like a show about chess players, and they're looking for like 8 chess players. So Arsenal fan, you don't have to be like a grandmaster or something. Yeah, you should like apply, Arsenal fan. I read it today. They're having some kind of chess master show. They're gonna look for someone. Yeah, you should apply, dude. It could be interesting. You could start a career. So everyone's welcome to apply. They're looking for 8 people. And I don't know if you have to live in the UK, but it certainly wouldn't help. I wouldn't hurt. All right, e4, e5. So look up like BBC Chess Master. Master Chess. Oh, that show was famous. Yeah. No, this is like Chess Master, not Master Chess. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, and now, for some reason the other day, I was black and everyone was playing like bishop takes c6 against me. That was weird. I'll say it's hard to play for a win on the black side of e4, e5 when you're used to playing the Sicilian. You know, if you never played anything else, you wouldn't really know the difference. But all right, my whole room like seemed to have turned yellow. It's just like, it's weird. I think maybe I'm getting jaundice or something. It's weird, man. I don't know. Maybe the sun just went down, but it's like very yellow in here. Okay, bishop a4, knight f6, castles b5, bishop b3, bishop b7, rook e1, castles. And you played the Marshall against me. So c3. You played the Marshall against me, but against this guy you played d6. But it's good to play both. You know, good for you, Sun Prism, for not being a one-trick pony. Am I mistaken? Oh, the Sahara dust. It's the Sahara dust, of course. It's infected my computer. They said like in Greece or whatever. Was it in Greece? Maybe no, southern Spain. That's funny. I have a friend in Spain who, like, he was on a call today. One of my students is in Spain. And I didn't see any like orange dust or whatever. It was all like clear. I think he's in like Granada. But c3, okay, d6. orange dust is overrated. Where was it I saw that had the orange dust? It wasn't southern Spain? Maybe it was Greece? Oh, Greece. Okay, Greece. Yeah, not southern Spain. Okay. C3, D6. Say what? Now knight A5. So, I didn't really realize this is a line. C5 is standard. Now white plays D3. Okay, well that's quiet. So, I mean, I feel like this transposes to like a anti-martial, practically. You just play these moves randomly. You don't understand the position. I don't know, does anybody really understand the position, man? Everyone, says they understand the position or they don't understand the position, but the truth is no one truly understands it completely. I understand it a little bit, but, Paul Curious or someone who played this with black would probably understand it quite deeply. A top Soviet-era grandmaster who specialized in the black side of the road, Paz, understands it. I don't understand it. H6 now. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, white didn't play D4, so white isn't putting pressure on you in any way, and so you have some let's say flexibility as what you can do here, but I guess there's different approaches. White wants to keep the position closed, start maneuvering like knight d2, knight f1. This is Geller said about chess positions, about openings, how like there's a certain square that's really important, and so in the Sicilian and here it's d5. In the French defense, it's like e5. In the King's Indian, it's like e4. You understand how important d5 is. It's oftentimes a battle over d5. Queen c7 is something you play when white plays d4. White plays d4, white puts pressure on the e5 pawn. Black isn't just playing queen c7 for his health. Queen c7 it's a way of one of the main ways of like protecting the pawn at e5. It has some other points, but I think the main purpose is to protect d5. You can also protect d5 by playing knight d7, but if you do knight d7, you lose control of d5. If you play queen c7, you can control both squares. But see, the problem is that d3 doesn't put pressure on black's position. d3 doesn't put pressure on e5, so you don't have to play moves like queen c7. So the number one move here is rook e8. Arsenal fans, that's a constructive move. Arsenal fans, knight c6 obviously isn't bad. So now we get h6. Now h6 probably isn't bad either. It takes away knight g5, which means that you can play bishop e6 in the future without getting molested by knight to g5. It's also not a bad move. White now plays a3, which is not unusual. a3 controls the b4 square. But it often supports b4, kicking knight off of a5. That means that white can come back to b3 and better control the d5 square. My problem with white when I've tried to do this with a3 and b4 is that it can backfire. So if you do a3, b4, you kick the knight off of a5. I've had a lot of games, maybe against Arsenal fan and other people, where black gets in a5 eventually. So if you do a3 and b4 with white, black moves the knight and then eventually turns around and plays a5 against you. And then it's like, who's zooming who now, buddy? If I get an a5 and I threaten to trade it for your pawn on b4, it seems like black has somehow got the upper hand. So that's the dynamic that I've noticed here. Black plays knight c6. So the point is, if b4, you have to watch for a5. Now, I've had some really weird games against people where this like levers start to get real funky. You know, if I play a4 takes b5, maybe white suddenly like winning. I had this one horrible game like 5 years ago against this Hungarian IM where this kid Krstulovic, where I like blundered that in English and I just had to resign right away. Like he just like killed me with the a5, a4, or reverse of a4, a5. Just a pawn lever and it was like game over. It was really brutal. So anyway, subtle positional play here. So bishop e3. You know, it's good to try to understand your opponent's moves too, obviously. I hope that you're, you know, sitting there like taking notes when you're playing your opponent mentally. Not literally taking notes, but at least you're saying to yourself, I hope, like, I think my opponent is trying to fill in the blank, you know. Bishop e3, my opponent is developing his pieces. That would be like kind of okay. But I think that looking for more aggressive plans, my opponent is trying to play queen d2 and sacrifice the bishop on h6. Not really. My opponent is trying to play d4. Yeah, maybe. This concerns me a little bit. That he might be trying to play for d4. I'm not necessarily afraid of that. I'm just saying, well, let's try to understand what he's doing here. Now, on the other hand, if you play d5, what the heck is this guy going to do? Oh, yeah, b4. But if you go d5 and he takes, well, you obviously have two captures here with the queen or with the knight. He's kind of asking for d5, isn't he? I mean, ultimately, what's white going to do now? Give up his center? Then which way do you take, with the knight? Or develop your pieces with queen takes? He could even play bishop e3. No, I'm not sure about what's going on here. I guess maybe we shouldn't play d5 yet, but knight takes deserves consideration. Threatening to take that bishop out. Although it's not a prize. I think that white can afford to give that bishop up. Was too scared to play d5? Well, no. Yeah, I agree. Like, it's a move you should be cautious about playing. Of course. Rook e8 is a good move. And now white does play d4. But I mean, have you done anything wrong here? And if the answer is no, your position is okay. So there's a lot of Benoni in the kings in the Ruy Lopez. I was thinking about taking this way and playing like bishop f8. But I'm getting a little scared about those central pawns. You know, pushing here. This, probably not an issue. I think you have a decent Benoni. So that's one option. You chose this is the safer capture. Alright. So takes. The problem is you don't have knight to b4. My mouse doesn't make like L shapes. You don't have knight to b4. So at the end of the day, I think you have to consider, you know, trading everything off. But we don't love the structure. Looks like white's a little better here. So I'm not thrilled about this whole thing. You know, I'm kind of thinking like maybe you shouldn't make any exchanges, honestly. I mean, does this just help white to like have a good square for his knight on b1? I think anytime you make a move, you got to really try to figure out like, well, what do we get out of this? Why not just go here, you know? Why are we caving at all, then let's just play bishop f8 straight away then, and stay where it is. All right, whatever. Take here, and now so the c file could open up. No, it's a complex position, man, and it's very hard to say like what's right and wrong here. There's a lot of choices for both sides. If I was white, I would probably not play d5 and just develop with knight to c3. Your opponent decides to play d5, but this move is very, like Arsenal fan would say, committal. It's good, but it's also committal. Now he can't go back, so that's it. His pawns are fixed for the rest of his life on d5 and e4. Black can play knight a5, back to c4. I don't know how effective that is. Or the congestive knight e7, the Rockportian knight a5, or a7, which looks bad, and then of course knight b8. And I'm kind of leaning toward knight b8 because it's the move where we're like the least congested. This knight can definitely get back to d7. After knight e7, okay, this is the more aggressive move. But you've got to make sure that knight doesn't get permanently like shut in. And shut in your bishop in turn. So we gonna go to g6, or are we gonna move this knight and play f5, or are we gonna move our knight back to g8, or where's it going? It's a d3 Lopez. It just like looks like a normal line now. Black plays knight g6, but I think you can consider going like Nakamura here with g5. So with knight g6 now, you have ideas of, this is okay. You have ideas of knight h5, you have ideas of knight h7. What else? Well, the bishop's really buried, so this needs to get back in the game. And it's not easy to do. Knight g6, queen d2, allowing, by the way, knight h5. Although, what our long-term plan is, I don't really see. Nothing special, really. Maybe queen f6 kind of stuff. Yeah, he has knight e2. This is relatively normal. Bishop d7 was played. Rook c1. I don't know. I would be focusing on the king side here with black. And then finally we had knight h5. But now this bishop has the ability to come back to f1 and help protect his king side. I'm not sure rook c8 really did anything for us. Kind of responding to him on the queen side. If his bishop goes back to f1, though, we might get in f5. Our worst piece is the bishop on f8. So you got creepy crawly sort of bishop e7, bishop g5 ideas. Knight e2. Ideally we could play the Najdorf, bring our bishop back, to d8. So now we're just seeing an exchange, and then you went nuts with f5. So this is a totally tactical move, and I certainly would have probably not seen it coming. When you played rook takes rook, I thought you were going for liquidation with queen b8, bring the rook over, trade everything off. So it's funny, you played rook takes rook, and then you blasted the position with f5. Yeah, I would jump out of my chair if my opponent played this. This is an online game, not an OTB game, but I'm just saying. Very random-ish. It looks risky. The only thing about your play that's kind of strange is you seem to play pretty solidly, and then all of a sudden this came out of nowhere. Is it desperation, or just very astute calculation, or is this sort of a misjudgment? E takes f6, e4. Pawn takes g6, pawn takes f3. So this breaks up his king side. The other way gets the valuable bishop. The only issue with your position is really the bishop on f8. And without that bishop, you're almost like down a piece. Now, if that bishop were active, black would have a great position. But I'm a little concerned about it. And he doesn't have to waste time playing this move, obviously. So knight g3 looks okay. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to do. You don't really have a choice. Coming back. Well, you never had an attack, you know. You're like, I quickly start wondering where my attack is. What attack? You know, you had no attack. You just sort of like tossed f5 at him. But it's really not clear who has the upper hand on the king side. This isn't an attack, it's just like a randomizer, you know. You're just like throwing like a bomb up in the air and like seeing, you know, where it lands. I mean, it's not really like, you know, pulling the pin in a grenade and tossing it up in the air and hoping the wind blows the right way or something. This is not an attack. It's totally not clear who's attacking who here. But now, you know, the pawn on g6 is seriously implanted in your position. I don't like it. It feels like that's pretty nasty to have that pawn there. So now he has rook f1. He finds it. And then rook takes f3. You know, so white kind of stabilized. You never had an attack. And one might say you were a little optimistic to think of that word while you're playing this game. Rook f7, and now what you really need to do is get your bishop in the game. That piece is not happy, but he has sackages. Has or may have some sort of sacrifice on h6. That might be an attack. That might be an attack, you know, for white. No, I think at this point you have to be realistic and be like, okay, yeah, I'm a pawn down. A draw is cool with me. You know, let's be careful here. Bishop e6, rook f4, bishop e7. Finally, and so he has this funny structure with the triple g pawns, and you know, triple g pawns are probably better than a g pawn and an isolated d pawn, but not by that much. Yeah, it's a pretty random game, but you know, it was interesting, the opening. And now after trading pieces, is he problem here? No. You got your bishop active. As I said earlier, I mean, this is a great idea, but it's not working here. Rook takes d6. So you got your bishop in the game finally. And now b2 is hanging. b2 is hanging, a6 is hanging, but then you have a move. You might have a move, although he also has a back rank mate, so I don't know what's going on. White is much better. Okay. So you played instead bishop f5, threatening to win a piece. He defends, you take the pawn, take a pawn, bishop f7. You can't take on b2 because you dropped a piece there. Yikes. So now it looks like you're losing again. Damn. This guy's like the pawn collector. Played pretty well. Black won on time. That's the important thing, right? You won on time. Alright. No. The most dangerous thing like you can really experience is optimism in a chess game. A little optimism goes a long way, in my experience. Alright, Richie Smith. Mr. Coffee, by the way, thanks for joining us. I got to leave a little bit early tonight, so We're going to cut it at 6 games. I've got time, though. I don't have to rush. We have time for these last 2. I have about half an hour, 35 minutes, to do Richie Smith and Nefedov games. Sack draw. So Richie Smith is facing the Van Geet opening. I think, knight c3 is kind of interesting. Didn't you mention that I played it against you? Nefedov? Oh, not even Nefedov. Arsenal fan? So d5, e4. Now here's very important moment. Now, you could always play the Kraken, the French defense, if you so desire. But the computer will say like d4 is the best. The computer and like Jesse Cry. But I don't think we should look at it as like, best or second best. I think this is a matter of style. Probably the 2 best moves are push and take, but they're very different. One is open position, the other one is closed game. I don't recommend playing this for black unless you play the white side of d4. This was always my preference because I prefer open positions. But objectively, who knows? Once in a while you get some weird gambit or something like that. Anyways, knight takes e4, and now black played knight f6. So your opponent was an FM. So here, I've experimented quite a bit with this knight c6 move, which isn't bad. Arsenal fan, actually being a player who likes to play the Chigorin, that's something you might take a look at. But it's not a main move. Alright. So there's some traps there. The knight c6 is kind of interesting. I want to say knight d7 is a very popular move. I think I played this against Asa Hoffman at the Marshall Chess Club in a blitz session. Maybe it was at the Manhattan. But I think it was at Manhattan Chess Club, which doesn't exist anymore. Asa's still alive. He's written some books about his experiences. But Asa used to love to play the Van Geet. And I never really got to New York City much, so I used to like to play some maybe blitz sessions with players when I would go down there. I wouldn't normally get to play. With knight c6, well, it's really depending. I mean, I guess usually like e6 after getting the bishop outside the pawn chain, depending on what white does. We want to get the bishop outside the pawn chain in most cases. Alright, so knight f6 is good though. No doubt this is a good move. So knight g5 was played, which is interesting. That's something like Asa would probably play. I didn't play knight f6 ever. Knight takes f6 is standard. It's like a Kraken. And this is also possible, but there you have h5. Bangtown is here with 5 gift subs. Nice. To Jinfizz, The Magician Code 88, Mad Quick Chess, Steiner Botand, most likely from Hungary, and CD Gambiter. So, alright. I like h5, but g6 is also good. So it's up to you. Bangtown, thanks for the gift subs. As always, very generous of you. Arsenal fan plays knight f6, you know, then, I mean, white could play anything. I suppose you could play knight to c3, you know. What is, now this would be like reverse colors. Be like, he's black and you're white. After, what would this be? It's a funny position. Alright, so knight g5, and this is like kind of, feels like it's some sort of like tricky gambit, like he's gonna play d4, bishop d3, hope you grab the pawn on d4 or something. So now he played knight c6 of all things, kind of the idea I was talking about. So what is the plan here? I mean, white is trying to induce h6, at which point he does what? I mean, this, to be quite frank with you, I would think even g5 is okay for black, because the knight would be so stupid on h3. So he really has to go back to f3. He's inducing h6 to go back to f3. But I mean, there you can play bishop f5, and your bishop has a home on h7. A lurkum, as the Lorax would call it. So it's sort of a bluff. h6 is definitely a good move. The question is, like, is it the best move? And I'm not sure. It's hard to play it against a strong player. It's like they're trying to goad you into it. But you have other options. But the thing is, like, bishop c4 is coming, so you have to decide now on your setup. No, the worst move you can play is like e5. This is like, you're probably like lost, you know. It's kind of like a sleazy like trap. You're just hoping you play e5. If you play e6, by the way, there's something very close to, it feels like a Budapest gambit or something, you know. But yeah, I think I like h6, and then going with the London system, as always, my favorite. Alright, but knight c6 is interesting. Now, if he plays bishop c4, you can play e6, or you can like see what's behind door number 2. That's interesting, knight e5. So, did this occur to you? Wow, David Navarra, 1998 David Navarra game. But you talked yourself out of it. Because you didn't like maybe know what your follow-up was. But the obvious follow-up is h6, which we could have done anyway, right? So if bishop e3, no, they didn't do that. Oh, okay. So Navarra ended up playing a very cool move here, bishop g4. And I would imagine that even in 1998, when he was rated 2275, the guy was a freaking genius. You know? So you can probably be fairly sure he was underrated in 1998. I would take his move very seriously. This is about as provocative as you can get, you know. I could see that as being the computer move, by the way. He's trying to provoke f3, which is awkward. You know, it weakens white's king side. Then he went bishop h5. Okay, this isn't for the faint of heart, obviously. I also think that h6 seems reasonable. But there, white will now play a knight move. A funny knight move would be like this, right? So we could do like the switcheroo, like you take here and I take here. But that would be good for you. You would open up the h file for yourself and then play e6. Probably not, well, not bad anyway. So I would expect like knight back to f3, and then you can't play bishop g4, it's a trap. So you have to play, you know, some move. Knight f3 or bust. Anyway, it's all very interesting. Definitely playable. Black played e6 in the game, and now he's got a knight you know, on g5, gonna drop back. He plays this. You played h6. It was like pulling teeth here. And now you did it. Oh my goodness. Arsenal's playing the Sveshnikov on the other side. God, I love this move though. Yeah, it feels like you almost have to, you know, honestly. Like, what's your alternative? I mean, playing bishop d6. He's just going to move his d-pawn forward, and then he's going to be able to play for knight f4. And if you play g5, then you want to have your bishop on g7. No, Future Master KO, I got to go. I'm just going to do this in one more game. So my point is, like, if you're going to play g5, you don't want your bishop on d6. You want it on g7. That's a good diagonal here. It also helps protect your king side. This seems right. g5 felt like the sort of move you kick yourself for not playing. Well, it's like the Sveshnikov. Now he has to do this awkward thing with his knight. You know, like I had this knight on a3 the other day in a weird Sveshnikov where I misplayed it. So now you played bishop. Yeah, that's weird. So the whole plan should have been to play bishop g7. I mean, that was my point. You know, it's an extended fianchetto, but I mean, this is a really good grob, if you will. You're also forestalling him trying any kind of bullshit with b3. That's not going to fly. So I love your position after this. I think that black is better. Maybe white's okay, but I would rather be black. This feels weird. Yeah, like, because now you have this kind of, you know, it's like playing the Zaitsev or Lopez and not playing bishop b7 or something, you know. Like, what's going to defend those squares over there? You're going to have to be really careful about your squares. So bishop c5 is a question mark. The computer claims you should play g4. Okay, that I didn't see. But I vote for bishop g7. And maybe white can do like h3 or something. I don't know. I didn't realize that g4 is a threat. You didn't want to let him castle, okay, or develop. Now knight a5. This is a very ambitious move, but, you know, obviously playable. I would be a little reticent about our development. You know, we have weaknesses on the king side, and now we're moving our knight around. Be careful. Bishop b3, and you just took right away. If you don't take, he has bishop a4. But you never want to rush these exchanges. You could play maybe like b5 if you want to be really creative. I'll tell you what, your bishop sucks. And I want to play bishop d7, then I realize, okay, he has this. And the other thing is, like, he has bishop a4 in some positions. So I thought, hey, let's solve all the problems. Let's do b5. Yeah, and it's also symmetrical. So it's like a Kraken theme, you know. You can have like extended fianchettos on both sides. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's playable. I don't see how white can, and this can be met by bishop b7, and this is really the main thing. I want to play bishop b7 and make sure like no queens are showing up on f3. Okay, you also have another move there, right? You have the queen d4, which you were probably thinking of earlier. Very subtle. The subtle queen d4. You thought about b6, but b5 is critical because he has bishop a4. This is annoying, you know. Obviously, if b5, white could try something crazy like a4. But it's like, okay, BFD, you know, take, and b4 if you have to or something. But I think that's fine. I like b5. You took, it's also okay. And then, you know, now maybe you're like b6. I mean, I want to get this diagonal, bro. Because he doesn't have a light square bishop, you should be looking at the light squares. Well, you tried a different way. I mean, you're looking at this diagonal. Right. You know, there's some risk involved because of obviously both kings on the e-file, and your e5 pawn is no longer, you know, well, it's undefended. So he plays queen e2, and now, yeah, I mean, the issue is like, what options do we have here? Castles, it's great, but what's going to happen when he does like h4 or something? I'm just concerned about this ultimately bringing us down. I don't know that White is going to have enough time to use that, but it's possible. So he tries to kill your bishop here. This seems reasonable to me, unless you're losing a pawn for nothing. Castles, wow. So whenever I see your opponent's name, I think of Wadsworth. Waddington. Wadsworth books. Joseph Henry Wadsworth. I can't get Wadsworth out of my head. So castles. Lots of options, but you know, don't burn too much time because the h4 could happen. So what do we do? Rook e8, very solid. Yep. And there's h4, right on time. Just what I expected. And then we're in this awkward situation where we don't know what to do, and the chaos. Basically, he's like doing the Sung Prism style where he just like throws a grenade on the board, and now nobody knows what's going on. Unclear is better than being clearly worse, right? So now Arsenal fan, we don't really know where we are. We play g4, and then here I would have expected pretty much anything. I'm expecting the guy to like sack a piece at this point. Bishop takes h6. I don't know what to expect. But I mean, honestly, you know, this sort of thing, like, it doesn't look like he's got enough, you know. So he pulls the knight back, and that's actually fine, you know. Like, what's he threatening? I was afraid to be something there, but it turns out that h4 wasn't that effective. So as long as you don't just drop h6. So at the end of the day, I would be seriously considering, you know, defending my pawn. King g7, king h7. I was considering defending my pawn and not defending my pawn. There's other ways to defend it too. Like, you could go here, as strange as that is, and that defends the pawn laterally. But then you have to deal with stuff like knight e4, which is not good. I mean, I'm not real confident I like that. So I don't know if I want to move this knight away from f6. You know, it seems like safer to do something like this. So you played bishop takes e3, and he could take with the pawn. I don't know what that does. Queen takes gives him a square for his knight, and the computer doesn't like it. But it's hard to blame him, you know. I mean, he needs a frickin' place to put his knight. Plus, he's attacking h6. To me, that's the more logical move. But you had this resource here, and now queen e4. So again, you know, he wants a place for his knight. What about queen g3? He didn't like knight f4. So yeah, the dude's in an awkward spot now. Queen e4, and then the only thing is that you haven't had any concrete threats yet against this king. What you want is like to blast him over there on the queen side. You seem to have the upper hand now. I mean, e5, just really solid. trade of queens into an endgame isn't a problem. We're better, it looks like. You've got a very strong bishop. But f5 isn't necessary. I mean, there are certainly other moves you could play. But it does look good. I mean, what's he going to do? He has to go to c4 or a4. I expected c4, but I guess he walks directly into bishop e6. So he goes here. This isn't quite as bad, and then queen a3. And now he's begging you to play like knight to b4, but he has knight c4. So, I mean, that's even plausible. Knight, like knight b4, knight c4, queen c5, c3. But I think even in endgames you're okay. So instead you played this, eyeing the g2 pawn and this. And now I like a5. Looks like black is on the verge of clearly better. He develops a5 and then knight to c3, which is what to call this move, right? Whew, white is an overt doggy says, can I review this game? I cannot, but I will review it next week. a5, knight c3. I have to go after this game and the next. Yeah, he's totally desperate and plays knight to c3. Boom, boom. Let me see. Game analysis. What is that? Where's this game? Alright. Create study. What is next week? Next week is the 2nd. Okay. 2nd March. Yeah. 2nd May. It's an M word. 2nd May analysis stream. Alright, I gotta go in like 20 minutes. So, I can't add any more games for tonight. I've got one more game and then we're out. I will try to do that next week, doggy dog. But yeah, it looks like the guy just totally lost his mind. But anyway, he was in trouble. Yeah, knight b4 is more sadistic. And I think that black has a tremendous position. But Arsenal, you know, he's seeing dollar signs here. I wouldn't really call this materialistic. It's just good for black. And so white tries to bail out into an ending. You've got everything. More space, a pawn up, better minor piece. And I think the only thing you really need to do is make sure that e5 is secure. So if you play like king f7, king f6 is basically game over. In my opinion, if you have time to play king f6, it's game over. This is a win. I mean, the pawn structure is good. You have absolute chances to get a passed pawn, which is like probably decisive. I mean, I'm not sure you have to hurry with a4. You might not want to do that. As I said, I would prefer to, and Arsenal tends to rush. You tend to rush in like winning positions. I think you want to put your king on f6 and make sure e5 is just secure. I like the fact that your a pawn is on a dark square, and it can't, you know, and it can be solidly defended by b6. It's natural though to want to open the file for your rooks. See, you kind of like forced them into attacking your e pawn. I wish my king was there. Now it's coming. It's a little late, bro. Alright, here, bishop d5, you're still winning. Rook a1, and then king f6 would do the trick here. You drop the a file there, giving your opponent counterplay. And now you're just rushing. It was like something you would do against me. At this point, it looks like white might be hanging on. And now you have to actually be careful. So you really like, you know, against the title player, I mean, the guy's probably got some technique, you know. And I can see you're doing your thing where you play too fast. This, however, looks like an actual move. Now you're just drifting. And it's possible to lose a pawn up position. Oh man. These pawns are all fixed on the wrong color, making it impossible or difficult to use your pawn majority. Yeah, he had very good technique. It's actually amazing that you're not down any material yet, but you might as well be. I mean, these pawns are just too strong. So I don't know if he should go to... I feel like he should go to b4, not d4. So if he goes to b4, you go to e5, he takes your pawn. You have just a hint of counterplay here with like f4. I mean, I don't think this should be enough. Looks like you're lost anyway. He goes here. Now you have that b pawn to run. Probably doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you had him. I mean, pretty dead to rights there. All right, guys, last game. I'm gonna go over Nefedov here quickly. Well, Nefedov, I mean, Arsenal's just a nice guy. You know, he didn't want to hurt the guy's feelings, so he let him win. Okay, e4, knight f6, e5. This is Nefedov's favorite for pawns attack. I haven't had one in a while, but I'm still recommending the g6 for black. Our favorite line is what? g6, knight c3, bishop g7. I misplayed this against Nefedov already, and then bishop e6. So I don't know if there's been any developments in this line. I haven't looked at it, and not that many people play the Aliakin, but that was where I last left off. It's like the Aliakin is like a soap opera. Knight c6, bishop e3. But Nefedov really knows these lines. No, I mean, this is the standard line. No, I mean, I'm looking for, like, you know, new paths, not the standard shit. This is standard. And this is, this is like the Robson-Naroditsky thing. What about move order, though? Is bishop e2 more accurate? It gives black less options, maybe. So remind me now. Bishop e2, castle, castle. Yeah, and then f6. So this is Robson. This is the Robson Naroditsky from like U.S. Championship 2 years ago or whatever, which was just devastating. Like a perfect game by white. Yeah, you have to take on f6. This is standard. You take on f6 and you're just better. This position is just good for white. You know, I think it's simply good for white. Queen d2. And black can't equalize here, as far as I'm concerned. Plus 0.6. Yeah, there it is, dude. Just check out this game, Robson Naroditsky. It's 3 years ago. Wow, it's been a long time. Yeah, the time's going quicker, but Naroditsky couldn't equalize. I don't know that it's possible to equalize here. So c5 is a strange move from Nefedov. New idea. f6, c5. I mean, is pawn takes possible? Pawn cakes. It's possible, right? Just saying. Queen takes. In a way, it's more natural, but in a way, this is also natural because you're like strengthening, you know, upgrading your pawn from e6 to d5. It's an upgrade. You want a queen upgrade? Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me too. Right. Well, Nefedov won the game. No, he drew. What more can you ask? Said Nefedov after knight takes d5. Queen c1. So he didn't like rook c1 because of queen takes a2. Well, that would be entertaining, wouldn't it? I kind of like it, you know. Here, takes, knight h4. Unclear. I'm not going for that with black. I'd be hard pressed not to play like pawn takes. I gotta go, guys, in 5 minutes. Let me see what the engine says here. Both are playable, and it slightly likes queen takes better. Okay. So it agrees, and so do two other players. Oh, Panchenko is one of them. He's a grandmaster, older grandmaster. Wrote a really good endgame book. It's not translated to English. Excuse me, it's in German and Russian and Hungarian. Rufat Bagirov, but not the Bagirov who was the Alyakin defense expert. I'm curious if there's a relation between Rufat Bagirov and Bagirov the Alyakin expert. Queen c1, queen d7. I wish Nefedov would play like this against me. Doesn't seem to have a clear plan. And, I mean, bishop e5 doesn't really do anything. That's a nice move by black. It's a nice maneuver you've got there. Wow. So he pulls the knight back. This can't be played. Bishop d5, and then knight c4. Fancy chess syndrome. Yeah, Nefedov got carried away in this game. It's really extreme. He plays better against me. He's seen too much of me. He likes playing against me. I can't imagine any sort of exchange sacrifices. What are we talking about? Oh, before? After knight c4? I think so. Looks like white is just on the verge of being overextended. No, after knight c4. I don't think that white has any threats, really. Well, I mean, maybe he can take on f6 and try to play like bishop h6 or something. And now black played f5. I actually expected black to play like queen g6. Trading queens. And I would say that black is better. Black is playing Yalyak, and I mean black is just like saying white's overextended and white's worse. You know, I don't think there's any reason to do anything fancy here, but f5 is strategically like very dangerous. You take pressure off of e5, take pressure off the center. Now he's closing the center, and now black is doing what? Like, what is black banking on? Like a kingside attack here. Yeah, g5, he goes crazy. It's like a crazy stone wall. Okay, yeah, it's ambitious. Maybe it works. This was not Nefedov's finest hour. It's hard to believe, you know, he's played sloppy and overextended himself. He must have been tired or something. Too much brown beer. And black just, yeah, takes back. And this is the ultimate wooden shield on d5. Hikaru refers to that wooden shield. I mean, that's a hell of a bishop you've got there on d5. You can't get a stronger bishop than that. I mean, Nefedov should get a medal for drawing this game. And now, he's prevented g4 by keeping pressure on f4. Black just builds up and then blockading and trading off the bishop, right? Here. Trade it off. And now what is White going to play? c6 or something? Bishop a5. Uh-oh. Oh, man. So if c6, does Nefedov go in here and then implant his bishop on d6? That doesn't happen. So we get a heavy piece ending. Black has a queen, Black has pawn majority on the king side, competing pawn majorities, and then an ending. Nefedov went for the queen exchange, and it looks like his queen side majority would be like decent, but White prevents him from playing b4. So without b4, it's going to be hard to get liftoff for this queen side majority. Black also has pressure with like rook b4. So actually White has to be careful now. A little bit careful. The computer wants to undermine Black's structure with g3. And then a5. I mean, logical play by Black, but now White can blow up the king side, and he does. g3 takes. Now which way do we take? Rook takes smells like... Oh, Black has rook g7. Okay, I was going to smells like it wins a pawn, but it doesn't. Black happens to have rook g7, or does he? Yeah, he does. So rook takes rook g7 holds. And Black suddenly backpedaling. But why are we exchanging necessarily? It feels like Nefedov could have a chance. But this I don't like. So this is probably a critical moment, but I don't know. Does White realistically have chances to win here? It's a draw. Now the A file. He ties him down. White might have b5. Black offered a draw. Alright, it's a fair result. That was a shady game by Nefedov. Not your best. You know, strange decision to play c5, but we thought you were a pro for pawns attack player. Just remember Robson Naroditsky from 2021. The model game. Anyway, follow the model. I'll see you guys later. Don't forget Sunday Simul at 6:30 p.m. CEST. Have a great weekend. Oh, I will be back tomorrow. Sorry, Friday. Yes, I will be back tomorrow. Probably. Friday, Blitz challenges. Tomorrow, 12 noon. I'll see you guys there. Mr. Coffee, everybody, bye-bye.